And you know what else Samsung just does better? The phone. So, starting off with the selfie camera, because Samsung's fitted the S23 with a new one, the video quality definitely looks like a step in the right direction. You can see my face texture, you can see my beard detail really clearly. I'm impressed. Quite got the smoothening anti-grain power of the iPhone though. Which is enough for me to say that Samsung is still behind at this, just not nearly as much as they used to be.
Okay, this is a front-facing camera test on the S23 Ultra and the iPhone 14 Pro. Let me know which one sounds better and also which one looks better. Take a look at the HDR processing. Which of these blows out the sky less? But yeah, let me know. What do you guys think? Okay, so the iPhone had better HDR processing and also a wider angle too.
And then if you flick over to selfie photos, I've taken over 300 selfies on both of these phones, and thanks to the new dual pixel autofocus on Samsung, not a single one of my S23 ones are out of focus. I mean, the iPhone is already pretty good at this, but every now and again when even that struggles, Samsung's got it.
Now, when it comes to the front-facing camera, we have this front daytime shot with the sun behind me, so this was quite a difficult one to handle, and as you probably guessed it, the iPhone blew out the highlights once again. So sadly, no improvements here at all since September. The iPhone just blows the highlights almost all the time. The Samsung exposed it very, very well. My skin tone was also more natural, so easy win for Samsung here.
I need to see this new stabilization system, because the S23 Ultra has both an improved software-based stabilization, combined with the lens itself having 2 times the physical optical image stabilization. It's got to do something. This is different. The minute you open this phone's camera, it becomes very clear that stability is now a priority. And it actually does translate to video that is practically free from all the micro stuttering that comes with not being able to hold the camera still or having a bit too brisk of a walk. It's like having a car with a really powerful suspension. It just glides. This has, in a single generation, gone from one of Samsung's key weaknesses to one of their key strengths. Samsung's new stabilization system has entirely bridged that gap, enough to turn a previous loss in the stabilization category last year into a full-on victory.
But then of course we also had to test action mode, which is a tiny bit higher res on the iPhone compared to the Samsung, which is 2560 by 1440, both 60 FPS though. And here the Samsung was actually a bit more stable and with better tracking, so you can see that I was in the middle of the frame for longer compared to the iPhone. So it seems like action mode alone, Samsung has now surpassed Apple.
Apple has a single 3x zoom camera, Samsung has both a 3x and a 10x camera, and you can actually see the phone's improved AI layering in extra detail even after the shot has been captured. Make no mistake, the S23 Ultra is the better camera for all of those big zoomy folk out there. Like, just for fun, I tried zooming all the way into the moon, and the difference is not small. So at this point, Samsung is absolutely dominating.
They both have a 3x optical zoom lens, so let's see which one is better. There's a significant difference in favor for the iPhone. Take a look at how much clearer the image is and how much more detail we have in the shadows. Samsung also has a second optical zoom lens, which is a 10x module, and we actually got some very interesting results here. Of course, the Samsung was better. If you take a look at the bridge, it was much sharper. But if you take a look at his building here, the iPhone was actually very close. So I'm honestly very impressed, considering that the iPhone was just using the 3x lens and then zooming in digitally, whereas the Samsung was fully optically. So yeah, Samsung takes this one, but the iPhone was just really close. And then we also tested 30x zoom. This would be digital on both. The iPhone actually maxes out at 15x digital, and then we zoomed in twice in post, whereas the Samsung can actually do up to 100 digital zoom. And here, the Samsung definitely wins.
But if you had to put down money on one category being the end of that streak, it would be the quality of the video itself. And because video is one of the most complex things to master, more so than photos, I think this is where you most feel the fact that Samsung and most other Android companies have had to rush. If you go to a more extreme lighting environment, you can see the simple fact that Apple has spent more time tuning start to kick in those fringe cases. Plus, Apple still remains slightly more detailed in almost all cases. It's getting close, closer than I ever expected it to be, to the point where Apple should be worried, but they do just edge it out for now.
On to ultra-wide video, we have 4K 60 on both, and just like with the normal video, the iPhone is sharper, the colors are better, and we also have more detail. If you take a look at the buildings in the far distance, we do have better shadow details. So all in all, yeah, the iPhone is just a very, very good video camera. Then we have video 4K 60 on both, and I gotta say, this is still better on the iPhone. The footage looks much higher res, the colors are more vibrant, and the exposure is also better on the iPhone.
However, as any movie director will tell you, when it comes to video, audio is 50% of the package. So, which one sounds better? Well, it's actually pretty cool that Samsung has also silently upgraded the microphones on this phone. Not a huge update, but what you'll actually notice more is that because the speakers of the phone are now upgraded, when you're listening back to the videos taken on the phone, they now easily keep up with the iPhone.
Now, audio-wise, there was more background noise on the iPhone, but the audio was also clear, as on the Samsung, the audio felt a bit too heavily processed. So yeah, the iPhone had both a better image and better sound.
This phone has a brand new 200 megapixel camera. It's optimized to shoot quicker, more detailed shots than ever before. Surely the biggest improvement is going to be in just photos. Samsung's is 200 megapixel, Apple's is 48. And Apple's is more often than not slightly more detailed. The iPhone is ever so slightly ahead when it comes to those super zoomed in, nitty-gritty finer details. You can take amazing, beautiful, cinematic photos on both of these guys. They've both got pretty large, pretty equivalently sized camera sensors, so both of them get that lovely foreground-background separation by default. But I tend to prefer Samsung. It's the personality, the rich colors, the warmer skin tones. It's a weird way to describe it, but Samsung's photos are almost friendlier.
In terms of the front-facing portrait mode, this was pretty good on both, but Samsung was once again better. The background was better exposed, my hair had perfect separation, you can even see the individual hairs, so yeah, perfect shots on the Samsung. Then we have front-facing night mode on both, and here the iPhone is just blurry, it also has more noise in the sky, so yeah, again, clear win for the Samsung here.
Until this point, the iPhone 14 Pro had the most technically impressive nighttime performance I've ever seen on a smartphone. Well, there's two things you need to know about this S23 Ultra. One, it's really good at controlling the bright spots, better than the iPhone. We tried to find the most challenging scenarios you could possibly get, and yet there basically isn't a single overexposed pixel, which is super cool. And the second thing is that on average, it is getting a slight amount more information in those shots. Night photos should look like photos taken at night, and I can safely say they do that here.
Here we have an evening shot, which was taken right when the sun was setting, and none of them used night mode for this, and both achieved a very good result, almost identical results actually, with the Samsung having more detail in the shadows, whereas the iPhone had less noise in the sky. So I'm gonna call this one a tie. Now moving on to actual night mode here, I gotta say this is very good on both, but noticeably better on the Samsung, and that's because the iPhone simply looks overly sharpened in post. The sky is also noisier, and we just don't get as much detail once you zoom in.
But that day, my friends, is long gone. Samsung's really improved both the realism, successfully simulating all the subtle signs that you're actually using a big old DSLR camera, and also edge detection. At this point, the phone is distinguishing each individual hair on my arm. It's almost too good. I've tried it on animals too, and while the edge detection doesn't work quite as well, since these portrait mode algorithms are mostly trained on people's faces, the S23 genuinely still makes them look.
Then we tested portrait mode with our model, Ren. Both detected her as a pet, which was great, but the biggest difference was the individual hairs, the separation on her fur, which Samsung did it perfectly. The iPhone really didn't do that, however, the iPhone managed to blur her fur gradually, which was very impressive. That's likely thanks to that LiDAR module. However, the iPhone messed up on the left-hand side as it got a random object in the frame, so Samsung definitely wins here.
But then, you might remember with the iPhone 14s, Apple added a feature called Photonic Engine, which means any photo you take, the phone will go back, scrub through, and enhance the textures. That really helps Apple out in this case, leading to, on average, the iPhone's close-ups being both a little closer and a little sharper.
And then we tested the macro modes, which both phones feature thanks to their ultra-wide modules. And here, the iPhone was better. If you take a look at the sharpness and zoom in, you'll see that the iPhone was much sharper, and the focus fall-off was not as intense as on the Samsung. So yes, the iPhone does have a better macro mode.
I think it's pretty clear what Samsung's trying to do here. The core messaging of their marketing with the S23s is, can you send me that? Samsung wants these phones to be the ones that all your friends are jealous of. The ones that are so obviously better than the competitors that you, by default, become the photo capturer of the group.
Plus, it also comes with some very useful camera features that you don't have on the iPhone at all, such as double tapping the power button to launch the camera, or using a hand gesture to take a selfie.